two-step equations. Just recall first that these are all one step, because they take one step to solve. Plus, but something like this, like yesterday, you were showing how to multiply by the reciprocal on both sides. And there's technically two steps we're doing here. We're multiplying, we're writing the reciprocal down, and then we have to do the actual calculation. But we call it one step. And we say, okay, this cancels, and we get x equals 3 goes with the 42, 14 times. And that's a one-step equation. That's what you did last night. And you also did this before, where you just had to subtract 5 on both sides. So what we're going to do is just look at the problem where you combine these steps into one problem. Combine both of these into one problem. The multiplying, dividing, and the adding, subtraction part. We want to get to a place, of course, where you do them 100% correct. Not just the easy ones I get, and the other ones that have like dividing, I don't get those right. We want to get everything right. So I'm going to show you a method that will let you do that. So when you see this new method, consider that, have you ever gotten 100% of every two-step equation? Probably not. So you do have something else you can learn. What I don't want you to do is sit there and say, I already know how to do this, okay, and I don't need to do this a different way. Chances are the way I'm going to show you, you're probably going to like anyway, and it's going to make a lot of sense without a lot of work. Okay. So we're going to be looking at two-step equations and inequality, so we're doing both. The problems with equations, when you graph them, it's just a dot. And the inequality, that's less than, the greater than, less than or equal to. So we have all these different graphs. We have less than, that looks like this. We have greater than, that looks like this. We have less than or equal to, that looks like this. And notice how the ones that have equal to, the lines underneath, including this one, these are all the solid dots. And those all have an equals involved. The regular equal sign, and the less than equal to, and the greater than equal to. Those are the ones that have the solid dots. Just the regular inequalities without the lines underneath, those are the open. Alright, the biggest thing that you want to be able to look at and understand is here. Okay? Explain the steps of solving a two-step equation basically by completing this sentence right here. The first step is this, because this. So you need to say out loud, explain out loud, here's what you do and why for every problem. So be thinking about this as we go along. Okay. First, a little review. When do you switch the sign? When do you switch the inequality sign? When do you flip the inequality sign? So like here, you switch right here. Well, first of all, let's actually say it. When is the sign supposed to be switched? Okay. It's when you multiply or divide by a negative. That's when you're supposed to switch, multiply or divide. So on this problem, you have to multiply or divide to solve this problem. This one step. Say thumbs up or thumbs down. Yes, you switch it. Thumbs down. No, you don't. Everybody. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay, move around. Thumbs up or thumbs down. If you don't have your thumb up, I'm looking right at you and waiting for you. Okay. So don't be the person that's just going to sit there and say, I'll just wait long enough until they'll move on without me. Still waiting, still waiting, still waiting. Can't see everybody's thumb. Still waiting, still waiting, still waiting. Can't see everybody, can't see everybody. Still waiting. Anybody else? Alright, yes, thumbs up. We do have to switch the sign. There's two ways of doing this. You can divide by a -4 or multiply by a -1/4. This is either way, it's the same thing. It's the same answer. So the idea is that when you multiply this way, everything cancels. Then yeah, switch the sign. Switch the sign. and we get -2. Now, how would you graph this? Which way would the arrow point? So if I have -2 right here, and I have 0 right here, and there's some other numbers like -3 over here, the numbers that you shade in are the numbers that are true. So think of a number that's either bigger or smaller than -2. Pick any number. 0 is the number. So plug in 0. Is -2 greater than 0? No. -2, a negative number, is not bigger than 0. So 0 is not an answer. That will let you know that it's everything to the left, everything on the other side. Okay, it's only when it's true is it an answer. If you plug in -3, does that work? Is -2 bigger than -3? Yes, so that's why you want to shade in that. Now, is -2 itself an answer? Yes, because it has the equal sign underneath. So greater than or equal to, so we solve that. Another way of looking at this is saying, if I would write this in words, it says -2 is bigger than all our answers. Which kind of makes sense here. -2, this number right here, is bigger than all these numbers over here. It's the biggest number of all our answers. But we can also flip this around here and say, well, our answers are all less than or equal to -2. Is that true? Are all these numbers less than -2? Yeah. So you can see here that these are equivalent statements. Saying -2 is bigger than all our answers, or saying all our answers are less than -2 is the same thing. We generally like to use this one for the answers first. So if you ever get an answer like this with a variable on the right, we usually like to flip it around. But it means the same thing. It means the exact same thing. All right. Let's see here. What about on this second one? Do you have to multiply and divide by a negative here? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Seeing some no's, good. Lots of no's? Yeah. Because on here you have to multiply by positive 10 to solve. So there is no multiplying by a negative. It's just a positive. So that's okay. Don't switch the sign. Here, we have to add 19 to both sides. So it doesn't even matter because we're not even multiplying or dividing. So we're not going to switch the sign there. So you're really just looking for when do you switch the sign. And of course, this is just like the one we just did. If 2 is bigger than all our answers, that means all our answers are less than 2. So it means the same thing, and these two have the exact same graph. Now pick a number. Is 0 an answer? Is 2 bigger than 0?
Yeah.
Is 0 less than 2?
Yeah.
Yes. So that means we're going to shade in the direction of 0. Should I have an open circle or closed circle? Okay. Yeah, because 2 is not an answer. There's no equal sign underneath, so it's just open. Good. That's a good review. Let's have you guys try it now. All right, here, do you think you have to switch the sign on this one? No, huh? Yeah, there's no multiplying or dividing. It's just adding 12 to both sides. Good. What about here? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Switch the sign?
Yeah.
More? More? Everybody else? Riley? Thumbs up or thumbs down? Seth? Thumbs up or thumbs down? There we go. Thank you. Yes, so here we'd have to do this. Divided by a negative, switch the sign. Okay. Here, thumbs up or thumbs down? Yep, good, thumbs down. We're going to have to multiply by 20 on both sides. Not negative 20, but just 20. What about here? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Good, yes. Here we do have to switch the sign. Now let's look at so far. We had to switch the sign on this one, and on this one. What is similar about all of these? Just looking at the question. Notice how the negative is right here. Negative right next to the variable. Negative right next to the variable. So you see there's a way to easily identify, oh yeah, if there's a negative right next to the variable, not being added or subtracted, but if there's a negative right next to the variable, yeah, you're going to have to switch the sign. Okay. What about here? Switch the sign. Is there a negative right next to the variable? Well, it's not right next to the variable, but it's right underneath. In order to solve this problem, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by -4. So yeah, I have to multiply by a negative here. So it's either right next to it or right underneath it. Either one. So this is a yes. This is a thumbs up. So either the variable can be right next to it or right underneath it. The negative number could be next to it or right underneath it. Thumbs up, thumbs down here. Okay. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Everybody? Good. I see a few ups and I see a few downs. So you get the ones that say thumbs up, you're saying you should switch the sign. Okay. Do you have to multiply or divide by a negative here? I have to multiply by 4 on both sides. There's a negative on this side, but I'm not multiplying by a negative. I'm multiplying by +4 on both sides. So here I do not change the sign. So notice the rule I was giving you, if the negative is next to the variable underneath the variable, that's what you're looking at. That's all you need to look at. Don't look at anything else. So yeah, the number underneath the variable, not negative like it was here, so no. Don't switch the sign there. Alright, a few more. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Good. That's a quick one, right? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Good. Down. Yeah, there's no multiplying or dividing on here at all, so it doesn't matter. What about here? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, good. So on here we have to multiply by -12. Or just say, oh, okay, just like over here where there's a negative underneath, here's a negative underneath. We can pick it out pretty quick just by looking at the variable and what's right next to it or underneath it. So that's a good review for that. Let's get back to today. All right, here's a big idea. Watch this up here. If you're to solve here, I plug it in. Right, I just take the 4, substitute in here, and then I do what? Times 2. Bring down to -3, and then 8 minus 3 is 5. Here's the thing. Times 2, we had to multiply by 2, and we had to subtract 3. To solve an equation, we have to do the exact opposite. We have to do the exact opposite. So you see how we took the grouping exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract, and it's flipped upside down here? Because we actually have to do the add, subtract first, then the multiply and divide. Okay? And then these we'll throw in a little bit later. Okay? So watch this. We also have to do the opposite of what we did here. So on this problem, the first thing we did is we multiplied by 2, and then we subtracted 3. When we're solving, we have to do the opposite. You have to add 3. That's the opposite of subtract. What's the opposite of multiplying? Divide by 2. So this is going to be my first step. This is going to be my second step. I have to go in reverse order and do the opposite. So before I multiply by 2, subtract 3, when you're solving the equation, you have to add 3 and then divide by 2. So it kind of tells you what to do first or second. So like right here, it says add 3 first. Okay, if I go over here, I add 3 first. Notice how I write the right underneath the number. Right underneath the number, I'll draw a long line. This equals 0. I'm going to bring this straight down. I'm going to put the equal sign directly underneath the previous equal sign. And I'm going to have 5 plus 3 is 8. Okay, so I did this. That's done. Next, it says divide by 2 both sides. Okay, I'm going to divide by 2 on both sides. Divide by 2, divide by 2. A small line, a small one, not like this one. Just a small line under each. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. X equals 8 divided by 2 is 4. So this is what we're going to practice right here, is coming up with the steps before we even start the problem. Before we even start the problem. Okay. So watch me do this one. I'm going to model a few of these for you. It's what we call a model sandwich. Which means I do a problem, I'll explain the steps, and then I'll do another one using the steps so it makes sense. Okay. So just watch up here, and you want to be able to do exactly what I'm showing you. Okay. I'm trying to get through to you that this is not an option, or I want you to this is something to consider if you feel like doing it. So all your homeworks I want you to do just like this. Okay. So first, you have the 2 steps, that's the first thing. You have to solve and check. Okay. Now, if you're doing a check, how would you solve this? Okay. So if m was a number, let's say I'm going to pick a number that's divisible by 12. So let's just say I'm going to plug in 24. Let's say I'm doing a check. What would I have to do first here? What would be the first thing? What's that? What is that? I can't hear. Yeah, so what do I do first to solve this problem right here? What would be the first thing? Divide by 12. Yeah, you do 24 divided by 12. That would be the first step. What would be the second step? Yeah, minus 9. So that's what you do if you're just doing a check. Okay? I want you to look up here. Can you visualize that? If you plug in a number, the first thing you have to do is divide that number by 12 and then subtract 9. So those are the steps if you're plugging in a number. So when you're solving the equation, you do the opposite. So what is the opposite of subtracting 9? Add 9. What's the opposite of dividing by 12? Multiplying by 12. So now I know, first I'm going to add 9 to both sides, then I'm going to multiply by 12. You have to know what you're doing before you even start. It's like having directions before you even leave. You know you're going to make a left here, you know you're going to make a right here, and that's what I need to do to get where I'm going. So you don't have to wonder. So let's look at it, just follow. Now it's just following directions. Okay, add 9 to both sides. Where do you put the plus 9? Right underneath the other 9. So plus 9, and right underneath here. Okay. I also like to put a line right down the middle. Okay. This equals 0. I'm going to bring down the m over 12 directly down. Okay, just directly down. Not move it over here, directly down. That's going to equal negative 11 plus 9 is 2. With negative. So step 1 is done. Step 2 tells me what to do. I'm going to multiply by 12 on both sides. Go over here, multiply by 12 on both sides. Multiply by 12 on both sides. Okay. 12 over 12 is 1. Directly underneath, I'm going to put m. Equals negative 2 times 12 is negative 24. So a few things. I have here, you're going to write out for each problem. Well, here's what I do if I plug it in, and then you're going to write out the opposite and go in the opposite direction. Remember, if you start at the bottom and go up because we're doing everything backwards. We're doing adding, subtract first, multiply, divide second. Are we finished with this problem? No. Again, read the directions, especially on your homework. Let's say do a check for every problem, right? So your next step is take your answer, plug it in. Notice how you're going to do the exact same thing we did at the beginning. We just have the correct answer now. And you're going to check, you're going to see, question mark, if it's actually equal to negative 11. If it's not equal to negative 11 on the left-hand side, then something's wrong. You got the wrong answer. So negative 24 divided by 12, negative 2, okay, minus 9. And again, we're trying to determine, does that equal negative 11? In this case, yeah. Negative 2 minus 9 is negative 11. So now, since they're the same, we know it's correct. Okay, if they're the same, it's correct. If you got 2 different numbers on your check, it's the wrong answer. I've seen some people, they just want to go through the motions and they'll get like, you know, -8 equals 9, and they'll say, okay, check, I'm done. This means it's wrong answer. Okay? That means whatever you plugged in the beginning is wrong, because you did not get the same thing. Okay? So know the difference. We're not just doing this and then putting a check mark when we're finished regardless. You have to get the same number. Okay, so a little bit, but again, it works very, very well. Okay? First thing we're doing, yeah, we're going to draw a line down. I showed you how to set this up here to do the opposite. Okay, and we end up doing everything backwards. We do a plus sign. We do it multiplied by 12. And then at the end, check your solution. Okay. So we have step 1 right here, here. Step 2 is solving. Step 3 is checking. Alright, I'm going to show you one more with the directions, right? And then you're going to do a couple on the whiteboard. And I'm going to have you guys hold up your whiteboard and show me that you know how to do it. Okay? Keeping a very close eye. But right now you're just watching. You're still watching. And go through one more. The difference between this one and the last one is that this has an inequality sign. And it doesn't change so much. So, I'll draw that line. Now, let's figure out. If there's a number here, what would you do first to solve? Okay? So you can imagine this, or you can write it out. I'm just going to make up a number. I don't even know, this is not necessarily the right answer. I'm just looking at this. So here's my number. What would I have to do first to this number in order to solve this problem? Multiply by. Okay, so the first thing is multiply by this one, -2. That would be my first step. It's kind of like what you're doing with this one. So you have to multiply it by -2. Then you'd have to do what? You have to, well, right here you'd be subtracting 6. So that's what you do if you're just evaluating, just plugging in a number in here. You multiply by -2, then you subtract 6. So how are you going to solve this? We're going to do the opposite. What's the opposite of -6? And what's the opposite of multiply by -2? Divide by -2. So the number still stays the same. When I say opposite, I just mean the sign, the operation. So it goes from multiply to divide, and then subtract to add. So that means on this problem, I have to do this first, then I have to do this second. Okay, so it's having a plan before you start. Okay, watch here. Watch up here. Watch up front. Add 6 to both sides. Draw a line. This equals 0. -6 positive 6 is 0. Bring this down. Break down. Right underneath. Okay. Bring down the inequality sign. And then 4 plus 6 is 10. Alright. Next. Did this. Next step. It says divide by -2. Alright. Let's do divide by -2. -2 over -2 equals 1. Notice how I switched the sign. Why did I switch the sign? Yeah, remember right here? Look at that. -2a. Go back here. -4x. -17b. -9x. Anytime you have a negative, you have to switch the sign. So you'll have that right in the middle. Okay? And then we have -5. Okay. Not finished yet. We just finished this part. Now we need to do the check. So let's do the check. Now, how many answers are there to this problem right here? Remember, for inequalities, how many answers are there? 1? I think that's very crazy. When you have like a equals 5, there's one answer. What about inequalities? There's an infinite. There's so many answers here. Why are there so many answers? Because it's all the numbers that are bigger than -5. Not just -5, but every number bigger than -5. So when you're doing your check, You want to pick any number bigger than -5, but you want to pick a number that's easy to plug in. How about 0? Is 0 bigger than -5? Should be part of the answer. So when you're doing this, you can always choose to pick some easy numbers. And this is only with inequalities. If there's an equal sign, you have to use that number because that's the only number. In inequalities, you have an infinite number of answers. So we get 0 minus 6, and we get 0 minus 6 is -6. Is this true or false? -6 less than or equal to 4. Yes, true, so it's an answer. That would be true. All right, so that's the process I'm going to have you guys do right now. Take a good look at it. I want to see this right here. Then I want to see the work. Notice how I mentioned several times, write it down like this, go straight down. Notice how on here, look at all my inequality signs. They're all lined up. Everything is lined up. Everything is lined up. So if this is super easy math for you, like you know exactly what to add, subtract, and divide, work on your format and your form. Okay? This is a new standard. This is something you're tested on by the state now. That you can't just write your work. It says you have to be able to communicate and follow the work. So if you can just write down the answer, but nobody can follow it, the state is not going to like it. So you have to get used to actually writing things out so anybody can follow it as well. Okay? So we will be doing that all year long. All right, so let's have the A's go ahead and work on this problem right here. Is there any that were like wasted out that were not done yet?
Let's keep
Okay, so make 2 files. Just stack them like this. Which ones are like kind of way out? Don't file and make 2 files and I'll look at them. Okay, A's, you're doing the writing. A's, you're doing the writing. Don't go to the adults. Figure it out, okay? Solve your own problem. Okay, good. Now try to clean it up. Does that look like what I showed you earlier? Gotta get that format fixed. So maybe start it again, write a little bit smaller, and fit it all in. All organized. Somebody pressed down on it too hard, so pull it back out somehow. Use the tip of your pencil or something and fix it. Because it was fine last period, so you guys got it. Okay, now, how many of you didn't follow directions and you just did step 1 here and you didn't do part 2? How many didn't do the check? Okay, make sure you do the check, it's part of the problem. Okay, don't erase it when you're done because I want to see it. I have everybody hold it up at the same time. So, yeah, if you skipped this step, when I mentioned, here's what you need to do in this order, because I saw some people starting with 8 and they're doing This is, step one. Before you are even doing any math, you're already messing up because you're not figuring out where you're going before you leave. You have to have this plan down first. So like as I mentioned, you guys might look at this and say, well, that's more writing, therefore it's harder. Okay? I don't want you to think that because it's not harder if you get it correct. As opposed to sitting there and getting it wrong over and over because you didn't want to write it. So make sure you do this for every problem. If you want to get 100% accurate at this, not trying to do it, but 100% accurate. So now you know what the plan is. Okay, I got a minus 21 first. So right underneath the 21, right underneath it, there we go. Looks like that. Equals 0. Bring down, directly straight down. F over 8. Bring directly straight down the inequality sign. Simplify. 14 minus 21. There we go. I finished here. Then, multiply by 8 on both sides. So now I go over here, multiply by 8 on both sides. Cancels out. F greater than or equal to negative 56. All right. And then go ahead and do a check. Pick any number.